Welcome back to the morning after this Tuesday morning as the 6 game lose streak is no more. What a fun night at Canada Life Center as the Winnipeg Jets and LA Kings went toe to toe, two Western Conference playoff teams, though it would be very unlikely these two meet in the playoffs at this point. And a better game for the Winnipeg Jets. Shocking, I know, as we finally saw Rick Bowness make changes to his lineup, especially in the top six and the D. We'll get into the D later. We finally, game 74, saw Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor split up. And on this night, it was Kyle Connor's new line. That was the line to get excited about. Let's start with Kyle Connor. In my opinion, this was the best game we've seen from Kyle Connor in weeks. This is the guy that most Jets fell in love with and still see that he's a key player to this, but they need him performing at this level. The Winnipeg Jets need the most out of Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor, and both of them you get the most out of when they're apart. Sean Monahan looked great down the middle with those two, and Cole Perfetti, man. Impact player, has an impact game, has a statement game getting back in the lineup. Let this line cook, Rick. Don't fucking touch it. Don't you think about touching it. Cole's a player. Cole's a player. Play him with players. How long has it been since we've seen a Winnipeg Jets game look like this? Controlled the better chances. Didn't give up a whole lot of quality. A lot of the quality did come from their own mistakes, something that's got to clean up a bit. The Jets really do shoot themselves in the foot at times. And you know what? It wasn't Bross's best night. We haven't seen a night like that from Bross much this year, but it wasn't his best night. So what did the new lines look like analytically? By expected goals? 3 lines over 60% this last night. Only one game sample. Only one game. But this is what you want to see. Now, the top line had an interesting game. I thought they were kind of back and forth. They showed flashes of what gets people like me excited about them. There was a couple of those moments in the game where the whole crowd was on the edge of their feet, like, ooh, thinking that line was going to score. But they also had some cohesion issues last night. There was no doubt about that. Not something I'm worried about. And I like what I saw elsewhere. Adam Lowry's line continues to do a very good job in that shutdown role. And took the hard matchup with Anze Kopitar last night. In the third period, I felt they really took it to them, which was huge. Fourth line deserves a lot of praise. Played a really basic game. And just, you got what you want out of a fourth line that you're going to want to trust for upwards of 10, 12 minutes in a game in the playoffs. I mean, those guys were filled with second efforts last night. Just a hardworking group. You gotta respect it. This is what you want to see from the Winnipeg Jets. Now the D pairings. I'm going to give a shout out Ozzy Fromm, my boy. Texted me, I want to say it was in the second intermission, with two takeaways from the game at that point. How Nick Ehlers had a couple chances to bury, and if he does, he's going to have to for that line to get going. And that's true. There were some good chances there. It'll come. Not worried about those guys at all. And his second point was just how much a game like that shows how important Dylan DeMello is on this team, especially next to Josh Morrissey. When we saw the lines yesterday, the one disappointing thing I had was I don't believe Neil Pionk should be playing in this lineup right now, the way he's playing. And you were going to ask Josh Morrissey, who's been lights out, to kind of carry him. It's a high event pair. There's going to be a lot of events going on, a lot of shots, a lot of creation in the ozone. They're going to give up a ton. And you see here, Morrissey Pionk did struggle, though Morrissey himself, I thought, created for the Winnipeg Jets. You're just asking a lot from anybody trying to play with Neil right now. It's an unfortunate reality of the situation. But Dylan DeMello jumps in with Dylan Sandberg, and they were fantastic. They gave up nothing. That was like a shutdown type pair. gave up nothing. I thought Dylan and Schmidt weren't bad last night. When when they gave up opportunities, it was big blow ups. Like there was one play that stands out to me where Nate Schmidt had it in the right corner in the D zone and just threw it up the middle, and all of a sudden LA had a couple chances off that. Things like that need to get cleaned up. I'd be looking at something like DeMello Morrissey or DeMello Sandberg and trying to find someone else to play with Morrissey. I'd like to see Colin Miller back in there with an attempt to play with Brendan Dillon. I just think those two would really jive off each other well. I think we're going to still see some tweaks on this blue line as we go down the stretch. But in totality, this night belongs to these guys. The jerseys, I love these jerseys, man. I know there was a lot of debate when they first came out. I thought they looked great on the ice. Bross's setup in them, fantastic. So what happens here? You just had this line go off. Cole Perfetti, 2 goals, the game winner, and a primary assist. Kyle Connor, best he's looked in weeks. And Monahan guiding the ship down the middle. You can't change that, right? So what happens with Tyler Toffoli? Comes back. He was only sick. Let's go down that track. Nino Niederreiter left hurt to get stitches. They aren't sure of his availability this week. If he can't play, I think the obvious decision would just be going to Foley in the Nino Niederreiter spot with Appleton and Lowry, which would create an interesting look because you'd add a bit of a more pure shooter to that group. But here's where I'd go. I'm keeping Ehlers, Scheifele, Velarde, and I'm letting them get back to it. I'm keeping Monahan, Perfetti, and Connor together. I'm keeping Nino, Lowry, and Appleton together. And I'm going either of Morgan Barron, Alex Iafallo on the left side. I'm going Vlad Nemestikov down the middle. And I'm going Tyler Toffoli to add some offense to that line. I think especially Nemestikov and Iafallo. Yeah, Barron too, even. I'd like to see something like that where you get another scorer down there, especially for a line like that who spent so much of their game in the O-zone forechecking and creating. But there's no real natural gifted scorer there. All of a sudden you have 4 lines that become a matchup problem. And I think that would make the Winnipeg Jets very dangerous. Stick to the program, Rick. Stick to it. It can work. What a night at the barn. Thanks, AJ, for taking me. It was nice to see I saw a lot of familiar faces in the building last night. Hope everyone enjoyed. We'll see you later this week.